Hello, and for one last time this season, welcome to Flux Motorsport's coverage of the GT1 Championship Season 2 in 2021. Today, we reach the final round here at the Dubai Autodrome in the United Arab Emirates. This hot and sweltering closing race meeting at this 3.3 mile circuit will provide a challenge to those drivers who need to keep their cool as we have a three-way fight for the championship. By the end of this event, either Bruce Law, Lil God or eMotorsports will be crowned the new Flux Motorsport GT1 champion. I'm Redders, and as always joining me in this rather lovely air-conditioned commentary booth is McToasty, and well, here we are. It's been a rather dramatic contest throughout 7 previous rounds in GT1, and it's led to the tightest title fight of all the Flux championships this season. Are you looking forward to this one?
Oh, I definitely am. Yeah, like you said, the AC is on max in our commentary booth here. It's very, very hot. We've seen in practice track temperatures of 66 degrees Celsius. So going into this race, I would think that they would need to change tires on the hard tires, because those they're gonna be turning into rubber flavored pudding.
That doesn't really sound appealing to me, I've got to be honest,
No.
But hey, there you go. We'll talk you through the championship permutations shortly, but as things stand, it's Bruce Law who leads the way on 200 points, with Lil God closing in to just 6 points, having won the previous 2 rounds, sitting on 194. Meanwhile, eMotorsports realistically needs bad luck to strike his 2 title rivals to stand a chance of winning the championship, being 22 points behind Bruce on 178 points. Outside of the title fight, Blank File finds himself 4th in the standings with unfortunate disconnections in both the opening round in Austria and round 6 in Spain, costing him, in all fairness, what could have and maybe should have been the championship lead heading into this final race. Another fight that we need to keep our eye on is that for 5th place, as both Dr. Potford and CDN Trooper find themselves on 122 points, Dr. Potford holding the advantage of the better race result in the season so far, having finished 4th in the opening round in Austria. But with it being nigh on impossible for these 2 to finish on the same points come the end of this event, it really comes down to who performs best today, and that's another exciting battle that we've been looking forward to. It's one of the things that Dr. Potford's kind of always been one of those guys who we've kind of always goes under the radar but always has good results, and CDN Trooper by comparison, we've noted a lot of 5th place finishes so far this season. Both of them have been really excelling down in the midfield.
Yeah, both drivers are very consistent with their results. They don't seem to, at this point in their GT1 careers, to have the outright pace to get up there, starting up on the grid or in the race, but their consistency really wins out against the midfield and the midfield pack.
It is something that I'm really looking forward to. Outside of obviously our championship fighters, things start off Lil God setting his first lap on a 147.9, just getting under the 1 minute 48 barrier. eMotorsports, who's 3rd in the championship, sits 2nd on the grid at the moment. As we just take a quick look at Bruce Law, who's down on the track just doing his lap at the moment, coming around the final corner. And let's see where this will put him in the early stages. He goes top and goes a 10th faster than Little God. So, what are those championship permutations, I hear you saying? Well, Bruce Law here, leading the way in the championship, has a guaranteed way, naturally, of winning this title. All he needs to do is finish in 2nd place in the race with a point for either pole position or fastest lap, and that will crown him the champion. However, it gets a little bit interesting just because of how close the title fight is at this point. Little God, who is in 2nd place in the championship, just 6 points behind. In an unusual situation, he actually has a guaranteed way of being able to win the championship as well. All he needs to do, and I say all he needs to do, is have a clean sweep. If he can win the race as well as get the bonus points for both pole position and the fastest lap, he will be champion no matter what Bruce Law does. So it's really, really tight between these two, and you've got to say, momentum in the way is going of Little God, as we've seen winning the last 2 races. It's kind of almost mirrors what happened last season when he was chasing Linga Bazinga for the title, but just fell short. So what can he take from what happened last season to bring into this season just to help him in this final race?
Yeah, he'll definitely be using that experience from last season. He's worked so hard on his qualifying pace, and it really will come down to those last bonus points here. He's gonna try his best to get that pole position back and get that one more point that he desperately needs at this point.
We'll follow him through as he completes this lap. I'm not sure if he's actually just preparing for another lap, which is pretty much he comes down almost to a halt just to let another car through just before he gets prepared for his lap, just building up a gap ahead of this flying lap. And that's kind of one of the things you've really got to do around this circuit, just because of how hot it is. It's not even hot, it's ridiculously hot. It is so quick for these tyres to heat up around this circuit.
Yeah, the ambient temperature as well, quite high. And usually you'll see drivers will close up the radiator to decrease the drag for a qualifying run, but I don't think they'll be able to afford that kind of a setup today. Those radiators are going to have to be all the way open to keep the engines alive for even 4 or 5 laps that they're doing these qualifying runs. And the brake ducts as well, they're going to be very hot, so I'm not going to be taking any chances, these drivers, with the temperatures.
No, definitely not. It's been ridiculous. Even just some of the practice runs that I've been involved with, just having a go with it myself, it's absolutely crazy just how quick everything heats up in these cars. So the fact that, his Little God spins it on that attempt, so he's going to have to take it back to the pits and try. Which, and that's another thing as well, just the varying speeds, of course. Little God, we saw him make himself a gap just at the end there, before his flying lap, to really give himself some space, but already caught straight back up to the car in front of him just at the end of the second sector there. So really got to make some space around this circuit.
Yeah, it's a difficult one to follow a car. I mean, it always is in these GT1 cars with how much downforce they produce, but this track especially, with all the high-speed and mid-speed sections, it is quite difficult to follow behind a car closely, and that dirty air kind of takes the air off the rear wing, and I think that's what happened there with Little God, the back of the car just going around.
Immortalis doing absolutely everything he needs to try and get himself into the championship fight. We did say it was going to be quite the tall task for him, but a pole position, a provisional pole on a 147.2, 6 tenths clear of Bruce. Where did that lap come from? I'd love to have seen how he did that, but incredible job so far. And as we're saying, it's going to be tough for Immortalis because he really needs bad luck to strike both Bruce Law and Lil God. To put it into context, if Immortalis gets a clean sweep, he wins the race, gets pole position and fastest lap, he would need Bruce Law to finish 9th or lower and for Little God to be 6th or lower. So quite the mountain to climb. Never say never in these kind of things, but do you think Immortalis may be just looking to get as many points as he can to just try and close up that gap to see how close he could get?
Yeah, he's definitely thinking that he definitely knows that there's a possibility, but realistically he's going to be really just bringing in as many points as he can and hope for the best, really.
Got to give a few shout outs as well to some of the reserve drivers that we've got in for this race. We've got the console who's joining us for the first time, taking part in 9th place at the moment on a 151.6. So what can we expect from the console here?
Well, you've seen the console do really well in the touring cars. Of course, GT1's a very different series. A lot more power, a lot more downforce, different drivetrain, engine placement, everything really. But yeah, we'll see what he can do in that Mercedes. Looks like he's chosen the same livery that Murphy had earlier this season. It was probably the same car. They just switched up the contract. But yeah, we'll have to see how he does here. Right now he's sitting. Let's see, where is he? 9th place.
Still in 9th at the moment.
Yeah,
yes.
Just over 4 seconds off the pace. So not too bad. Just jumping in.
A little better than what I've been doing throughout my practices. We've also got, just as I was about to swap over to just pin in, Martin. Look at that, Martin jumps all the way up into 2nd place there on a 147.7, so half a second now behind eMotorsports. Bruce Law saw improve his lap time but didn't move up any further places, so that's a good lap from Martin, who we've seen flashes of brilliance from so far this season, otherwise kind of been battling in the midfield, but he'll be quite happy with that one.
Yeah, very nice. He's staying well off the track here for others to come through, letting the car cool down.
There's one way of doing it, that's for sure. As we were saying, Just Piddling also joining us as reserve for the 3rd race now. Was actually 6th place in the race in Road America last week, so a really good performance from him there. So what can we expect on a much hotter circuit from him?
He's been steadily improving for the races that he's joined as a reserve. So I would expect at least another 6th place finish from him. Looks like he's starting a little further down the order, so he's going to have a little bit more of a challenge to do so, but I think with his consistency and his building on the setup of that car that he's driven about 3 times now, it's pretty impressive what he can do already.
We're just watching Spankmar as well, the 3rd of our reserve drivers here, just staying well out of the way at the moment. So he's joined us for the last 3 races. He's really actually taken part in the second half of the season. He had a 12th place finish in, a 10th place finish in the Spanish race. He's unfortunately disconnected from the other 2 races that he's been part of. Some technical issues that he's been having, so hopefully we can see him continue to build up his pace here.
Yeah, it'll be good to see all the drivers kind of be within as tight as times as they can be. Of course, we had 2 races ago a bunch of reserves jumping in for the first time into the series, and the times were quite varied, but even over a very long lap that this is, 6 seconds is pretty close.
Indeed. And one final shout out, because we've got a good news story, and I always love a good news story. Let's welcome back Totenkopf, who was 5th place in the GT1 at 2021 Season 1 Championship, so last time out. Unfortunately suffered a hand injury just before the start of Season 2, so wasn't able to take part, but having taken time off to recover that hand, he's starting to get back into the swing of things, and not just back into the swing of things. Look at that, 6th place, 1.5 seconds off. For someone who's coming back from an injury joining us, and to set that kind of lap time straight away on your first race back, that's incredible.
Yeah, he's been having a little bit of practice as he's been recovering from that injury, and yeah, it looks like he hasn't lost any speed. He's been right back on it.
Indeed, if you want to know what kind of expectations you can have from him, last season qualified as high as second place twice and even made the podium twice in third place. So definitely one who could be challenging these front drivers, and maybe a headache to both Bruce Law and Little God as we get into the final few minutes of this 20-minute qualifying session, and then there will be a 45-minute race which will determine our GT1 Season 2 champion. At the moment, it's the man in third place who's just going for a spin there, eMotorsports, who's on a provisional pole position. A long way back, but still mathematically possible for him to be able to win the championship. Blank File in second place, and Blank, I know we haven't talked about much so far this session, but fourth in the championship standings, but it just really doesn't do him justice this season. He should be much higher up, and as we say, potentially even a championship leader coming into this final race. Just really rotten luck has hit him this season.
Yeah, you said what we tend to call car troubles, or engine issues, mechanical failures, a couple times this season. So he hasn't been able to finish a couple races, and I believe both of them he was leading. So yeah, big upset there in the championship, and yeah, it'll be good to see him back up in the race today, and yeah, hoping for no more troubles for him.
No more troubles, and hopefully be able to have a stronger championship fight next season. Of course, if you want to be part of it, Season 3 will be coming up in a few weeks' time. All you need to do to make sure that you're part of it is head over to FluxMotorsport.com. You can sign up there, and after a quick evaluation, you'll be able to take part in all of our championships. So why not get yourself on board? Now is really the perfect time to do it, because it's the end of Season 2. These guys are going to take a few weeks off before we start Season 3, and then you'll be able to get all the practice in that you need to be able to challenge these drivers straight away. So why don't you go ahead and do it? But Toasty is a driver as well, taking part in some of our American championships. I believe in the title fight of both of them still, aren't you?
Just about. It's yeah, I guess it's still mathematically possible, but I'm not expecting to win either of them at this point. I did miss a couple of rounds of the IndyCar and one of the GTEs, so
you're basically the immortalis of our American series. Sum it up as we watch the man on provisional pole position, just going around one last time to just make sure that he puts it out of reach. But that little wobble in that sector one is so difficult, especially that is where the tyres really take the most pounding. And in a 45-minute race, how difficult is it going to be for those drivers to keep those tyres cool, especially throughout that sector?
Yeah, I think there's two different strategies, two different ways you could go about it. Either you can push through that sector every lap and then pit halfway, or you can really take it easy through sector 1 and try to make the tires last to the end. And it's going to be interesting to see which of those strategies works out. It would be really interesting if we had Lil God and Bruce both make different decisions on that point.
Lil God crosses the line, improves his time, but still stays in third place, so that pole position bonus point is not coming his way, which means that he won't be able to guarantee himself a championship. He will need to do it the hard way against this man, Bruce Law. But the question is, on this final flying lap, and he comes straight into the pit, so he is going to be starting from 5th place. So this really shakes up the championship standings at the moment, doesn't it? And that is what we're looking for. Let's follow Toten, as we say, returning back to GT1 after missing the whole of this season. Let's see if he can improve on his lap time to see if he can push himself in further, and he has improved the time even more, now just 1.3 seconds behind provisional pole. You gotta say, for someone who's been out with an injury to come back and be this strong straight away, that is impressive work.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, coming through the final corner now. See how he does with the exit here. Doesn't get on the curve at all, so able to accelerate to the line. Doesn't improve,
no improvement in time. Nope. So he remains in 6th place. And Snanin Bongo, one of the last drivers who's getting ready to cross the line now, is just on the back straight, so just around about halfway through sector 2 at the moment. So it's really an interesting track, this one, because it's one that I'd never really ever been to or ever driven before until I realised it was part of this championship. So gave it a go, and it's really just a complete contrast. The first sector compared to sectors 2 and 3. Sectors 2 and 3 are a lot more wide open, sweeping corners, quite nice, but it's much more tight, twisty and technical in Sector 1. So how would you play it on the setup?
It reminds me a bit of Algarve or Portimao. So I think I would, if I had a setup for there, I would work off of that. It's got some similar qualities to it.
It's a good call. Snanin Bongo crosses the line and remains in 8th place. So the only man that we're waiting to cross the line now is the man who will be on pole position, and he's already celebrating.
Oh my.
You've still got a race to go, Immortalis. You've still got a long way to go before you can pull off those celebrations. It's a nice try. It's a little bit early, but I'm sure he's enjoying the moment at least, because that at least brings him 1 point closer in the championship fight. So, our grid for the final race here at the Dubai Autodrome for round 8 of the GT1 Championship sees Immortalis on pole position, with Blank File, who's 4th in the championship, just outside of title contention, getting in the way of our title contenders on that front row. Little God is in 3rd place, with Martin65 in 4th. Bruce Law sits on 5th on the grid, with the returning Totenkopf in 6th place. CDN Trooper is in 7th, another great qualifying for him, and Snanin Bongo is in 8th, with Dr. Potford, who's fighting CDN Trooper for 5th place in the championship. He is in 9th place, with Just Piddling rounding out the top 10. The console, joining us for the first time in GT1 as a reserve, is in 11th, with Green Gaming in 12th place. It's 13th for Survivor, and Spankmeyer is in 14th place. And now guess what? It's that time where I do that little bit of blurb to promote everything. Don't forget, whilst you are here watching, to keep up to date with everything Flux Motorsport related, make sure that you hit the subscribe button and that bell notification icon so you get notified of all the latest videos as they appear here on YouTube. Don't forget, it's Championship Week. There's more championship races still to come. And of course, we'll have our summer special event coming up in the near future. We'll be able to tell you more about that in the near future. All you need to do is stick to Flux Motorsport channels. And how can you do that? You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram at Flux Motorsport. And don't forget, you can also join our Discord server to keep up to date with everything going on here at Flux Motorsport. If you want to take on these drivers, if you want to be part of Season 3, just head over to fluxmotorsport.com and sign up there. Do the quick evaluation, and you can take part in any one of our championships in the upcoming Season 3. So a minute to go until we do the final round of this championship. How are you feeling, Mystic McToasty?
Well, I think Blink File's really going to be pushing to get a win on the last round, really end on a high. So I think he can win this. Whether what happens second and further back, where the title fight is, that's going to be a lot of the focus. See Bruce Law starting right behind Little God. He's already looking at the back of that penthouse, and that's not what he wants to see right now.
He may at least be relieved to know that in the current situation, if it stays as it is, Bruce Law would take the championship, finishing in 5th if Little God finished in 3rd. The lights are on, And for one last time in Season 2, the lights are off, and that's an unusually slow start for eMotorsports, is side by side with Blankfeld and Lilgod trying to take up the inside and get himself involved and gets ahead. eMotorsports down into third as Blankfeld takes the lead, but the two title rivals, eMotorsports and Lilgod, fight side by side, and Lilgod goes a little bit wide and keeps himself ahead and takes second place from eMotorsports. Bruce Law gets himself up into fourth. Starling Bongo with an excellent start gets himself up into fifth place. Martin has dropped down to sixth, but the three title contenders are all nose to nose to nose here. This is a great way to start this race.
Yeah, great start by Blankfeld, a little slow off the line, or eMotorsports, like you said, down to third from that pole position. Starling Bongo now up into fifth place, so that's a great position for him to be in.
Not only that, it looks like he's pressurizing a little bit Bruce Law, as you can see, almost 4 wide in the background there, and that's including part of our fifth place fight that we've been talking about. Dr. Popford going up against CDN Trooper for that, although CDN Trooper has dropped all the way to the back, so I don't know if there's been an incident for him. That's not going to help in that fight for fifth place in the championship that we've been talking about. So Blankfeld gets himself almost a second lead at the moment and really gets himself in the way. Little God finds himself in second place. If things were to stay as it is, as they are now, it's still Bruce Law that would take the championship as it stands. So plenty to keep an eye on as Bruce Law now starting to maybe pressurize eMotorsports, although Little God has picked up a penalty on the first lap. That's not what he needs if he wants to fight for this championship, and knowing what these top four have been like, it's always close fighting with them, so he's going to have to try and make himself a gap.
Yeah, the token car for Merlin coming out on top after that 3 or almost 4 wide moment on the back straight. The console doing really well up into 8th place now.
Fantastic battles all around, but we're keeping a close eye on this one as eMotorsports runs wide as Bruce Law is trying to find this way and that way to get a move done. But then look at Snarling Bongo and Martin just hanging on. That's also that championship pressure. You know you've been good all season, but then when the fight is on, when the pressure is on and the title is literally within your grasp, suddenly you find other drivers just coming out of nowhere that aren't part of this title fight, really just causing you headaches. As Bruce Law now tries to run the outside, it will be a brave move to try and get this one done. eMotorsports manages to hold him off and keep third place. Oof. Bruce Law is trying to find ways around, but now Snarling Bongo is trying to find a way around Bruce Law. So this is going one way or the other for Bruce, and it's not what he needs. And this is exactly what I was talking about, that whole situation of you're trying to have your title fight, you don't want anyone else getting involved, and suddenly it just happens all the time. You just find random drivers who have been part of this championship all of a sudden just really causing you headaches and causing you stress when you're trying to find your way through, and instead they're now pressurizing you.
Yeah, it's a difficult situation. Those drivers are also racing for their own points as well. They're racing their own race. There aren't any blue flags for title contenders, so racing for position. So yeah, they're gonna fight as they normally would.
I'm finding that eMotorsports is maybe a little bit slower than we'd expect in straight lines, and maybe that's where Bruce Law is able to make up all the speed, because eMotorsports is maybe just gapping himself a little bit with the corners, and that's where Snarling Bongo is pressuring Bruce Law here. But especially on the main straight and on the back straight, I noticed that Bruce Law really able to close up a lot to eMotorsports.
Yeah, eMotorsports has seemed to struggle a bit this season with the straight line speed of his Mercedes. We saw that in Road America as well last week. You can see here how much Bruce gains on this back straight. A little bit.
Seems to be a lot under the braking, but then that might be the accordion effect that we always talk about in racing. So, but it does look a little bit closer in this section here.
taking a lot of that exit curb around that tight right-hander out of the back straight. That's a difficult one to take, a risky line, kind of. You don't want to spin it on that exit curb, as a lot of these curbs tend to do that to you.
We're watching Dr. Potford and just Piddling fighting for 9th place at the moment, so this again, that battle for 5th place that we were talking about between Dr. Potford and CDN Trooper. CDN Trooper has recovered now to 11th place, but finds himself 3 seconds behind Dr. Potford, so this is kind of getting juicy even for these positions, as we were hoping for as well.
Yeah, battles in the points and on the track, all over. Now it looks like Bruce was just looking around the outside of Immortalis further up the road, as these two almost go side by side into turn 1. Dr. Potford just taking a little look.
And Immortalis is spun! Immortalis, who really needs the bad luck to be hitting the other drivers, it's happened to him, and the pole sitter, almost pole sitter, has now dropped down to 6th place, and really not what he needed in his attempt for the title fight, because that's really going to put him almost out of the equation if he's down in 6th place. And of course that is exactly what Bruce Law wants, because that gives him the position to be just right behind Little God, and that really is all he needs to do, is just be behind Little God, and the title will be his. So don't know what happened there, but that didn't exactly help out Immortalis' championship hopes.
Yeah, and yeah, like you said, Little God is not gonna like to see that. Yeah, I'm sure he was happy with that buffer of 1 car between him and Bruce. We'll have to see what Bruce can do in clear air now, if he's able to run much faster lap times. Seems like we have a couple of few penalties early in the race here. This might be just a track that's very harsh on the track limits.
Indeed, as Martin and Snarling have also joined Little God in the penalty crew. I remember, I was trying to think what it was. I think it was one of the touring car races. Almost everyone picked up a penalty. I think it was at the Suzuka circuit. It was incredible just how difficult the stewards were being at that circuit. And I guess it varies from circuit to circuit, doesn't it? Like some you can take a bit more liberties, and others, like this circuit, maybe you've just got to be a bit more careful with what you do on the track. We go to Little God, obviously fighting in the championship, and actually look at that, finds himself just about a second now behind Blank File. So of course he's got that time penalty as well, so if he is able to make a move on Blank File, needs to make that gap. But if he can get into first place, that is when things start to get a bit more interesting, because if Little God can get into the lead of this race and Blank File just remains that buffer in second, that will swing things in Little God's favour. So now this is really where the push is. So Little God has probably seen that Bruce Law is now the car directly behind him in third, and really has now got the rush on to get ahead of Blank File here.
Yeah, and he might have just gone for the fastest lap point while catching up to Blank File, kind of, getting 2 tasks done at the same time.
It is a much faster lap time, a 1:49.5 compared to 1:57 last time around. They're just about to cross the line for this next lap. Let's see what they do. Blank File set to 1:49.9, whereas Little God goes 1:50.0. So Blank File actually extending the lead by a tenth on that last lap. So ebbing and flowing, but Little God realizes now, of all times to be winning races, this is the one he really needs to win.
Yeah, we have multiple viewers cheering on their favorite drivers. Some for Little God, some for Bruce Law and Blank File. Meanwhile, the console commenting, "These are not like touring cars. Someone give me a Renault game, please."
Oh, nice try, but not happening, I'm afraid. You're going to stick with your GT1 choices. But can you believe it? We're already 10 minutes into this final race. 35 minutes to go. As it stands, Bruce Law in third place would take the championship, as looks like Immortalis has actually had another incident. Has dropped down to 8th place now, so really struggling. So I don't know if he's just overheated the tyres. It's very easy to do in these conditions, and it just happens so quickly as well. So how can Immortalis get his head back in the game here?
Yeah, console up to 6th place with Immortalis' mistake, so he's running really well in that car. Oh, he's got Merlin right behind him though. That was a bit close to braking.
It was getting quite close, but yes, Toden, who's rejoining us here after having to sit out the whole of Season 2 up until this point due to a hand injury, is now looking for a move up the inside. It's quite a brave one, but then again, that's quite a late apex at that corner, so the console wasn't really running wide. He was just trying to take a late apex, but he is coming into the pits, so this is interesting. Is it an early tactical stop, or is there any issues? Because the car looks fine to me.
Yeah, that's a strange timing. You know, unless he accidentally started on the soft tires and he's switching to hard tires, that's the only thing I could think of. But if he has, those tires would be very gone by now.
Very, very cooked is, I think, the terminology in these conditions. But there you go, console comes out, so it does look like it was a scheduled stop. So interesting time to take one, but it's, I guess, the question that I've asked plenty of times during the season. But given the conditions, because obviously we've been at tracks where obviously it's rained and yes, you need to change your tyres at that point, and sometimes on the odd occasion pit stop has been quicker, but how would you go on this race? Just because of the heat, would it be better to make a pit stop, or would it be better to just try and hang it out?
Yeah, the previous races we've seen that the no-stop strategy is by far the faster one, but with these temperatures, they really could even out. Of course, there's always the difficulty of coming through traffic if you do stop, and because those positions are racing for a position, they're not. Even if you do have so much more pace on new tires, the driver in front of you is not just going to move over and let you through. So it's a difficult call to make here, and we'll see in about 10 minutes, halfway through the race, which drivers are going to take what strategy here. I was just thinking that Console might have just pitted for possible engine wear there. He might have not opened the radiator as much as he could have, and that might be causing a bit of excess heat in the engine department.
That is another dilemma for these drivers, because a lot of the drivers, when they've been speaking to me saying about this circuit, they've literally said there's no way that we can't do it with any kind of closing. We have to open them up completely 100%. Yeah, I've heard some other drivers telling me I've been able to do it at 80%, so it's interesting to see what drivers can and what drivers can't get away with it.
Yeah, and of course it's going to be different with the car choice. So we see these two flashing lights.
Ooh, getting quite close there with mine and Snarling Bongo fighting for 4th place at the moment. These two just fighting for their own places in the Drivers' Championship at the moment, but always looking for the best race result that they possibly can. So it's getting interesting between these two. These two have been fighting for a little while now, but it's really getting close and really getting tasty, which is what we like here at Flux Motorsport. And the best thing about it all, clean racing. That is exactly what Flux is all about. Is Martin now trying around the outside? I'm not entirely sure it's going to work, but maybe he can get the undercut here. It's quite difficult with that corner, but really right on the nose. For a moment I thought Snarling was going to go into the pits then, but not quite, as he now just comes around the final corner. Is Martin close enough for a slipstream? I'm not entirely sure, but we have seen Martin been quite late on the brakes. Don't know if he can really do it into turn 1. Not really heavy enough of braking zone down in turn 1 to make the move, and he will stick by. So I like this fight. I really like this fight, but we'll come back to it in a little while because we are 15 minutes through the race now. Leading the way is Blank File, just keeping himself about 1.5 seconds plus to Little God in second place. Currently second place in the championship as well. Realistically, needs that place off of Blank File in first to be taking the championship from Bruce Law, who currently sits in third place where he is right now. Will do. It's enough. It's all he needs. And Snarling Bongo still trying to fight off Martin in 4th and 5th place. The returning Toten is down in 6th place at the moment. Immortalis, the 3rd man in our championship battle, finds himself down in 7th place and realistically well out of it at the moment. Dr. Potford in his fight for 5th place is in 8th overall. Keeping himself ahead of his championship rival CDN Trooper, who's in 10th. Just piddling, one of our reserves is sat in between them in 9th. There is CDN Trooper down in 10th. Finds himself almost 15 seconds down now on Dr. Potford. He's got quite a lot of work to do if he wants that 5th place in the Drivers' Championship. The console, who's joining us for the first time after a pit stop, finds himself down in 11th place. Survivor is in 12th place. Green Gaming is in 13th, just a few seconds behind, and Spankmeyer finds himself just a few seconds behind that in 14th. So it's been an interesting battle so far, and still looking very close between Snarling and Martin as they get really close now as Martin tries to get himself into the slipstream on the main straight. Snarling tries to go to the inside to cover off, and Martin's still not really close enough, but this is looking like there might be some real good action and real swapping of positions even coming up very shortly.
Yeah, last time we were on with the cameras flashing their lights, they must have known we were watching. That's usually what Snarling does in response to that. Martin getting very close. He's just pushing Snarling Bongo through sectors 1 and 3, it seems like.
We'll see how it goes down to the back straight. Got a message from Team Angie, wants to check out the penalties because there's quite a few at the moment. We'll see how Martin does as he comes to the end of this back straight, and then we'll take a quick look and see who's got what. Of course, both Little Gone and Immortalis in the championship fight both have time penalties. Bruce Law, the championship leader at the moment, does not. And we'll take a look. So it's 2 seconds for Little God at the moment, and it's 1 second for Snarling Bongo, Martin and Immortalis, and 2 seconds also for the console down in 11th place. So that's how the penalties look at the moment. So in this fight, at least it's even Stevens.
Yeah, Little God running very quick laps at the moment, but he would also have to extend a 2-second gap ahead of Blink File, which getting ahead of Blink File in the first place is not an easy feat. So yeah, it's going to be difficult for him.
As Martin goes for a spin, and it looks like that fight then will be off for a little while. And is it easy to do that at that corner? I mean, it's a little bit of an undulating corner. I suppose in the heat of the moment, following a car that closely as well, it's a possibility of something that could happen.
Yeah, and getting about to halfway through the race now. The rear tires are going to be very hot, especially if he was pushing for that many laps in a row, behind a car especially.
Another driver has joined the penalty crew, and it's the race leader Blank File. He has a 1 second penalty, time penalty now. So that means Little God, if he can get ahead, now only needs to be a second ahead of Blank File, so that's something to keep an eye on as well. The championship fight continues, but as it stands, Bruce Law in third is doing enough to remain the GT1 champion for Season 2 as Immortalis goes for another spin, and this race goes from bad to worse for the man who's in third in the championship.
Yeah, contact with the wall that time. Wasn't lucky enough to keep it out of the barrier, so he might have a little bit of damage there.
I'm just trying to do some quick mental maths at the moment. In fact, if eMotorsports were to finish here in 7th place, I believe, off the top of my head, he'd just hold on to 3rd place over Blackfile by 1 point as it stands. So it could be an interesting fight for 3rd place, of course. If you're wondering how the drivers are selected for the championship, it's first come, first serve, apart from the top 3 in the championship. If you're in the top 3, then you are guaranteed a place if you choose to take it. So that's one of the things that the drivers, both eMotorsports and Blankfile, will be fighting for, that precious 3rd place to guarantee themselves a position in next season's GT1 championship. So all to play for even in 3rd place now. We got it all going on.
Yeah, and I think Blankfile might have the fastest lap, so with that point, with your quick mental math, they might even be tied at this point in the live points of the championship.
You take a quick look and you are correct on a 149.0. That is the fastest lap of the race so far, so it would go to him. Can I just say a shout out to eMotorsports, his fastest lap being a 1 minute 50 exactly. That is absolute perfection there. I like it when drivers are neat like that. He's getting close again. Now Snarling Bongo going up against Toten, and Toten just breezes by actually and takes 5th place from Snarling Bongo. So Snarling actually falls behind Martin as well, so maybe Snarling's had his own incident to drop that far back, but Toten enjoying his return here, although maybe having a bit of a slowdown that he's just had to avoid for a penalty there. Just keeps himself ahead of Snarling, so Toten, fantastic return to the GT1 series for him.
Snarling had a bit of a wobble out of that corner exit, but it was able to save it, accelerate to the inside of this hairpin here. Looks like he gets the move done.
And then gets himself back up into 5th place, so this is another juicy battle. I love it, there's fights everywhere. Oh, that's a very late call for Toten to head into the pits there, so this is more like the time that we would be expecting, exactly halfway at this point, for pit stops to be taking place. So if you're Little God, you're a second behind Blankfile, you haven't really caught up to him, you need to overtake and you need to make that gap. Do you gamble on a pit stop or not?
I don't know. He'd be looking at what Bruce would be doing at the end of this lap. But even then, if you're going to make the pit stop on the following lap, that might be too late to gain an advantage.
It's really, really tough to call. Obviously, Little God has the advantage over Bruce Law. If he were to pit and everyone else did, then obviously he would be fine in that regard, but really if he's trying to get that advantage, he would try and get the undercut over Blankfile in the lead. So it's really, really juggling with the maths at the moment, and that's one thing that we've got to keep an eye out for. CDN Trooper down in 10th place, as we mentioned. Quite a few 5th place finishes so far this season. Has really brought himself into the title fight, finds himself level on points with Dr. Potford, but at the moment he's a long way behind and would have to get himself a lot further up if he wants to be taking that 5th place. But what a season it's been for CDN.
Yeah, he's really been building up speed in that bright red Mercedes, and yeah, it was struggling a bit early in the season, but halfway through he's been really building up the speed and getting those top 5 positions pretty consistently. No matter where he seems to be, no matter where he starts on the grid for the race.
And still kind of just recovering from a first lap incident, I believe, that dropped him to the back of the field, but doing quite well to get himself back up into 10th place. But he's got to find himself almost 17 seconds to try and get ahead and overtake Dr. Potford. So it might be just a little bit out of reach, but of course Dr. Potford himself, that 4th place in the opening race in Austria as well, that's why he finds himself ahead in the championship over CDM Trooper, because a lot of 5th places for CDM Trooper, just that 4th place for Dr. Potford is enough to get him ahead, and it looks like maybe just hanging on to that 5th place as well. And that's one of the things we keep saying this all the time. Dr. Potford really just goes under the radar. We don't really tend to follow much of what he's doing, but what we've seen so far has been some good racing, some good fighting, and now just finds himself a little bit of clear air just to do his own thing. So again, another great season for Dr. Potford as well.
Yeah, little guy looks like he's caught up to Blinkfile a bit, under a second now, well under a second, and Blinkfile last lap looked like he had a 153, I think, so he must have made a mistake through probably sector 1 or 3, the more difficult twisty sections. But yeah, little god 149.8 that time around, so he's doing quite well still.
And getting closer, of course, as we say, with Bruce kind of just sitting in 3rd, not really able to do that much other than be in 3rd place at the moment. Little God realistically needs to jump himself ahead of Blankfile to get those extra points that he needs, because if Little God can get himself into 1st place, and he's getting very close at this point, he could get himself into championship winning position as he goes on the inside. That's not a corner to try and make a move, but he goes now onto the back straight in the slipstream of Blankfile. It's going to be difficult. Blankfile incredibly fast in a straight line, but he's finding any which way that he possibly can because time starting to run out. We've got 18 minutes left. Little God needs to find a way through and make that gap over Blankfile. So now Little God really turning up the pressure to try and win this championship.
And he might need to take the fastest lap as well after he passes Blankfile. So he's gonna need to cool down those tires after he makes the pass, but while also defending. It's gonna be really tough. Ooh, Blankfile goes very wide.
Blankfile runs wide, and that has given Little God the lead of the race. And as it stands now, if Little God can make that gap, that is the championship winning position for him. So that is a major change in this race. Little God takes the lead, and now he really needs to make that gap.
Now, would he need the fastest lap point at this time?
Blankfile has got a 3-second time penalty, so Little God doesn't need to make the gap. So long as he keeps himself ahead, that is enough. 1st place with Bruce in 3rd, no matter what, even if Bruce is able to pick up that point for fastest lap off of Blankfile, it still wouldn't be enough. It would come down to race wins, of which Little God would pick up his 3rd here. Bruce Law has only got 1, so it would go on count back of 1st places. If Bruce Law is able to pick up the fastest lap point, it would go on count back of 1st places. Oh, this is huge.
Yeah, it's all changed in that very last hairpin of the last lap. Blankfile just outbraking himself into that corner and going deep.
So what do you think may have caused that? Just that pressure starting to get to him from behind from Little God, or was it just a mistake of the tyres getting quite warm? Because as we say, it's very easy to happen in these conditions at this circuit.
Yeah, it could be tire temperatures or brake temperatures. He could be experiencing some brake fade already if he doesn't have the brake ducts open enough. Also, the high temperatures will make the tire pressures go up quite a bit, and the higher the tire pressures are in the front, especially when you have the brake bias towards the front, those tires are just going to slide instead of grip on the road enough to stop effectively.
And this is suddenly just changed on its head. I love it. I love this craziness that we have. As it would stand, Little God will be taking a win and 35 points. Bruce in third will be taking 27, so it would actually be an 8-point swing, which would give Little God the championship by 2 points if it remained as it is. So Bruce, what does Bruce do in this situation? Because he's obviously quite a long way behind Blank. We know that Blank obviously has a 3-second time penalty. So what does that mean in terms of position? So Bruce is 7.5 seconds down. So Bruce realistically needs to find himself 4.5 seconds in these final 15 minutes. But he's just kind of been on his own, really. He's not really been challenging or even fighting these two. How does he turn it on to get himself close enough in these final few moments?
Yeah, he needs to start pushing here and be quick, but he also doesn't want to build up those tire temperatures too high. So if I were him, I would kind of alternate between push laps and steady laps of you know, maybe a 149, 150, 149, 150, that kind of thing, and see if it works. Just hope for the best.
It is incredible. So we're down into the final third of this race. Less than 15 minutes ago. Little God leading the way on a 1:48.9. So I think he's even taken the fastest lap, quite possibly. Let's just double check on that one. He has. So Little God has just helped himself even more and extended that gap to 3 points. So wow. So now Bruce Law is going to need to take the extra bonus point. He's going to, I believe he needs to take that fastest lap. So let me just check. Yes, it would be now. Now that Little God has got that fastest lap as well, Bruce needs to take that fastest lap away from him. So it's going from bad to worse for Bruce at this moment.
Yeah, what Little God needs to do here is really back off and stop pushing at this point. He needs to cool down those tires, because he just pushed pretty hard to get that 148, so he doesn't want to overdo it and have an issue.
We continue down the rest of the grid then. There is Bruce Law in third place. What can he do? 12.5 minutes to come up with something to find himself a way back into this title fight now. Martin, 65, finds himself in fourth place. Fantastic result for him. Don't forget he also had a third place at Willow Springs. And another one of the drivers was telling me that in a way the tyres are kind of working in a weird way, considering the temperatures are just way too different based on each circuit. But this driver was actually telling me that actually the tyres kind of work in the same way as Willow Springs here, so maybe that's why you see Martin doing so well, as he actually looks like he's slowing down a little bit. I don't know if he's maybe just avoiding a slowdown penalty, as we go to Immortalis, who's a few seconds back in fifth, so that's a lap car in between them at the moment. But maybe, is that what's helping Martin, do you think, at this moment? Just the fact that the tyres, maybe just the way that they work, apparently the same way as they would at Willow Springs. Is that what helping him be so far up the grid at the moment, do you think?
Could be, yeah. If he found a similar quality to the tires in that race, he could have made some changes to the setup for this one that kind of replicate that high temperature situation. So that might be helping him quite a bit at this point, getting 35 minutes in. So if he has much less tire wear, much cooler tires than everyone else, he's gonna be flying in comparison.
Indeed. In 6th place we have Snarling Bongo. 7th place Dr. Popford, still leading quite handily ahead of CDN Trooper. Now got himself about 22 seconds in that fight for 5th place in the championship. Just Piddlin is in 8th place, another great drive from our reserve driver. being closely chased here by the console, who's making his GT1 debut in this race and trying to look for that 8th place, in fact. So looking either which way about it, of course, the console has come in for a stop and maybe starting to pressurize Just Pinlin, whose car is maybe screaming enough, maybe not the car, maybe the tyres screaming enough at this point.
Yeah, that tires are starting to turn into that rubber flavored pudding.
I gotta say, if we ever go out to a dessert bar, I'm not ordering what you're having. I'm just putting that out there now. As the console may be trying to look for the inside here, and he does get the move on Just Pinlin and gets himself up into 8th place. Nicely done there. As it looks like we've had a dropout from somewhere. In fact, I believe it is Immortalis. Immortalis, the man who was 3rd in the championship, has disappeared, so he's out of this race, out of contention for the fight. We knew it was going to be difficult anyway, but more importantly, that looks like 3rd place in the championship might be going, as well as the console. Oh, very late dive, trying to go into the pits there by the looks of it, and just got it all kinds of wrong, and is now fighting Just Pinlin again for what is now 7th place.
Yeah, that's not good news for Immortalis. He might be even dropping down the championship standings after that DNF.
Indeed, with the pole position that he got, he finds himself 18 points clear of Blankfard in the championship, with Blank being 2nd place, so scoring 30 points. Of Blank will jump into 3rd in the Drivers' Championship as it stands, so Immortalis will even drop to 4th place as the console actually gets back ahead of Just Pinlin and now into 7th place. So back and forth between these two, but that is a bit of a shame for Immortalis as well, was at least trying to fight for that 3rd place, but with that dropout means that Blankfar now kind of has a clear way into 3rd place into the Drivers' Championship, and really that was Blank's target for today, and he's managed to achieve it, so long as he remains in the race.
Yeah, Little God looks like he's starting to take it easy a bit. 152 that last lap across the line. Bruce, meanwhile, 149 still. So he's really pushing, trying to make up that time to Blankfile.
Oh, is that Blankfile that spun? It is Blankfile that has spun ahead. So remember, he's got a 3-second time penalty as well. So Bruce only needs to be within 3 seconds, and he has. Has that changed anything in the championship? Off the top of my head, I believe the answer may be no. I'm just going to have to double check my stats here, but Bruce being within 3 seconds of Blankfile, that would push him up into 2nd place. So as it stands, Bruce, with Little God leading with the point for fastest lap as well, Bruce would be a net 2nd, so no, it still wouldn't be enough. Bruce still does need to take that fastest lap point back. So, it's getting so close again.
Yeah, it's been swinging back and forth these title points here, and I haven't been doing a lot of on-the-spot calculation of who's in the net lead, who's yeah.
Yes, just doing it, and yes, I am correct. It would need Bruce. If Bruce is within 3 seconds and can take that 2nd place, he would definitely still need the fastest lap and take that away from Little God, as Little God actually does a 149 and extends that lead to almost 7 seconds over Blankfile. He's not taking it easy. He wants this done.
Yeah, Blankfile is still really want to go for the win, but yeah, having to back off a bit because of that spin. The tires are not going to be happy about that. Yeah, like you said, Little God, still his pace is still really strong. He's going to want to back off a little bit. He might just be doing what I suggested earlier of alternating quick laps with slow ones.
Just to really make sure that he's looking after those. So maybe just trying to push a little bit further for the fastest lap point. I don't think he really needs to at this point. I think everyone's tyres will be screaming enough at this point, even maybe some of those who've come into pit as well. So it's one of those things to keep an eye out for. But of course, Bruce Law realistically needs to try and get that fastest lap. There is 21 seconds to Martin, 22 seconds now to Martin behind him for 22 seconds. That's not enough for a pit stop, is it?
Yeah, that's a bit it's a bit too close.
But also, actually, no, we'd still need the second place as well.
Yeah.
I was just thinking, are there any permutations of which he could try and help himself at least get the point for the fastest lap? But no, if he did that, he would still need to take second place as well. So, it's getting close, but as it stands, it does look like Little God may be on his way to a title here in the GT1 Championship. And for someone who came so close last time out in Season 1 in 2021, he was so nearly there, as it looks like we've just lost the console. Has dropped out after picking up a penalty as well, so the console now leaves the race. So shame for him on his debut, but a good performance from what we saw nonetheless. But as I was saying with Little God, after what happened at the end of last season with Link Bazinga getting so close, this is, I guess in a way, redemption for what happened at the end of Season 1 for him.
Yeah, definitely. It looks like Blinkfile is really turning up the pace again after cooling off those tires. 148.9, which I think is the... Is that around the same time as the fastest lap? Ooh,
it's close, but not close enough. It's still going the way of Little God, as Blinkfile actually now has a 5-second time penalty. So Bruce Law is doing enough to be in second place, but as we say, Bruce has somehow got to find himself a way to be faster than a 148.920 in these final 3 minutes. So he's close enough to be able to take second place, but he's got to get that fastest lap if he wants the title.
There's some reports from the pit lane, Immortalis having a mechanical failure, and also the console losing the wheel, the steering wheel.
That's not exactly the thing you want when you're racing a car at these high speeds, really, is
yeah.
it? Oh man, what a tight fight this has been. And of course, we've got to give a shout to Bruce Law for the season that he's had, especially in the early races. Just kept having early race incidents, but came back strong in each of them to have not even a decent result, a really good result under the circumstances in those early races. And really, it's the consistency that's given him the championship lead coming into this final race. But it looks like it's just a little bit too late in these final few laps for Bruce. A 149.6, so he is trying. We've got to give him that. He is trying. He may still have one last chance to try and go to beat that 148.9, but it's a lot of work for Bruce at this point. But what a season he's had in his return to GT1.
Yeah, he really has been doing well in that Mercedes. He just seems like a driver who he knows exactly when to push and when not to push, and when he does need to push, he can do it. He can turn on the pace right away.
Let me just point out that Little God, even though he's leading the way by almost 8 seconds, he has the fastest lap. He's doing enough. On that last lap, a 148.945, he very nearly beat his own fastest lap time to try and extend that gap even further.
Yeah, well, he doesn't need to go any faster than he's going right now. He's got a 7-second gap to Blinkfile, so whether he's just really trying to secure that fastest lap point, just in case, or yeah, I'm not really sure, but he's still going quite quick.
In fact, he's actually improved it on this lap that he's just done. He's done a 148.8, so on his penultimate lap, Little God has set the fastest lap, having not stopped. The man is incredible. The man is insane. But the man really, really wants this.
Now this lap he's gonna cruise home, surely.
You say that, but look at Blankfile. Blankfile trying to take that point back, a 149.0. He got within 2/10 of trying to take it back there. This is not over for either of them, really, but the clock counts down. We're getting to the final few seconds, so this will be the final lap of the race. Ooh, wow, what a race that we've had. And I gotta say, if Blankfile had managed to do it, if Blank had managed to do it, I think that would have changed the championship permutations once again. So it's been a little bit crazy, but we've got to the final round of the season. We've got to the final lap. Matosi, it has been an epic season. And Little God, who really struggled in the early goings of this season, even had that early incident at Willow Springs with Linka Bazinga, where he was really frustrated because he wanted to be in that title fight. He wanted to get himself in, but he was worried it might not happen. But as he comes around the final corner, he comes to cross the line, it's going to be 3 race wins in a row, and as long as Blankfile doesn't take the fastest lap back... Oh, he does! He does! At the last moment, Bruce Law crosses the line. Has he taken second? I don't know. Oh, out of nowhere, this has suddenly changed. I don't think Bruce Law has done it. I think Bruce Law dropped too far back. Bruce is still in 3rd place. I believe Little God, by the skin of his teeth, has just won the GT1 championship. Wow!
Oh, wow. Yeah, this is quite an exciting finish.
Unbelievable! That fastest lap from Blankfile right to the end suddenly changed everything. And it was all a case of if Bruce Law was still close enough to take that 2nd place back. But it doesn't look like he's done it. Bruce Law has just missed out on the championship after Blankfile did half the job for him by taking back that fastest lap. Wow! I mean, we've had some fantastic moments in this championship, but good grief!
That is incredible. Yeah, Blankfile, like you said, did half the job, but he also sped away from Bruce Law at the end there, and Bruce just wasn't able to stay with him.
That is incredible. We're gonna have to check the gap at the end of this, aren't we, to see how close that became in the end. Yeah. I mean, I know I'm a commentator. I know I'm supposed to be talking, and this is my 1st season. But what a way for it to end, man! I'm lost for words. I don't know how.
Fans cheering on for Little God in the chat. Immortalis just saying, "Whoa, that's crazy."
Oh my word, look at that, with that 5-second time penalty that Blankfile ended up.
4/10.
It's 4/10. Bruce Law was 4/10 away from the championship. Unbelievable. But as it is, Little God takes the GT1 championship by 2 points over Bruce Law. Blankfile finishes in 2nd place, and that will give him 3rd in the Drivers' Championship. Bruce Law finishes in 3rd. What could have been for him. Martin finishes in 4th, Snarling in 5th. It's 6th place for Dr. Potford, and that will give him 5th place in the Drivers' Championship. So great job by him as well. Just Piddlin finishes in 7th. It's 8th for CDN Trooper. Toten, on his return to GT1, finishes in 9th, although classifies as a DNF, so maybe didn't cross the line in time. And Spankmeyer takes 10th place. Survivor is in 11th. Green Gaming is in 12th. I mean, what a season, but what a way for it to end. If you thought Brazil 2008 in Formula One was exciting, we just delivered even better.
Yeah, you said I was kind of teasing this end of the championship where I thought it was gonna go down to the last point.
I
Wow.
mean, that was incredible. And the championship week doesn't even finish there. It continues on Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern America time. Actually, sorry, I forget that. I'm jumping ahead, aren't I? It's tomorrow, 8 p.m. Eastern, Friday night in America, 1 a.m. Saturday morning UK time. The GTE Championship rounds up its season at the Texas Motor Speedway. That's on a road course. Jack New Zealand leads that championship by 27 points. It's quite a commanding lead. It's going to be quite a tough job for McToasty to come back. I have faith in you. I have faith in you. I'm not showing bias, by the way. And in the IndyCar Championship on Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern, Sunday morning, 1 a.m. UK time, IndyCar heads to the Texas Motor Speedway, but they are on the oval. Taijo leads that one by 26 points. And, of course, we give a shout-out to our Touring Car Championship. Linga Bazinga, the former champion of GT1, he took the title in the Touring Car Championship, so dominating from one championship to another. He's a good hand in all kinds of cars, isn't he? So don't forget to join us for those final two races. We'll soon announce the summer special event. And, of course, Season 3 will be coming to you very soon. If it's as exciting as how that finished then, oh, boy, we are going to be having a fantastic Season 3. You do not want to miss out on that. So make sure, whilst you're here watching, to keep up with everything Flux Motorsport related, you hit that subscribe button and the bell notification icon so you get notified of all the latest videos as they appear here on YouTube. And come on, you got to drop us a like on this video after that ends. What a fantastic way to end the season. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram at Flux Motorsport, and don't forget that you can also join our Discord server too to keep up to date with everything going on here at Flux Motorsport. McToasty, it's the end of a season. What was your highlight?
Well, it's got to be this this finish, the 4/10 from getting the championship lead that's just, I mean, we couldn't have predicted a better a better end to the season.
I was going to say, I had it in my mind that the moment of the season was going to be that battle between Immortalis and Snarling Bongo at Spain. I was like, that was incredible. Nothing's going to top there. And then blank file with that fastest lap right at the end. My word, that was incredible way to end the season. So thank you everyone who's been joining us over the season for watching. We'll be back soon with more GT1 Championship action when Season 3 starts in the near future. Make sure that you stay tuned to our social media pages to find out when our summer special event takes place, and make sure that you're here tomorrow and Saturday as well for our final races in the championship week. It is GTE tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern, and IndyCar Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern. My thanks to you, my thanks to McToasty for joining me in the commentary booth on my debut season here at Flux Motorsport. I have loved every second of it, and you know what, McToasty? I think I'm coming back for more. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you very soon for more action from Flux Motorsport. Thank you for joining us, and goodbye.